Yeah, it's a bit stretched out, but okay. Well, hello everyone. I'm the last speaker, I believe. So okay. Well, I'm going to talk this evening about the Heijmans one, or maybe more the process of the design itself, because it actually looks quite simple. I mean, you could say like if COA can build like for 1,000 people in 1 month, why would you develop 2 years on one dwelling? The thing is that the building community in the Netherlands is quite conservative. So if you look at the big companies like BAM, Heijmans, all the kinds, they really are financial companies. They're cost-driven. So if you do what you did before and you do it really efficiently, why would you change? So during the time that I graduated from the technical university, which was around 2012, we had the luck of having one of the biggest crises in architecture also. So many construction companies were actually struggling with, okay, our normal way, a normal approach of design or building is not working anymore. Could we maybe take a different approach towards architecture or towards design, and maybe think of architecture as a product or as something that you even could have, just like your cell phone, have an abonnement, a monthly fee to, with everything added to it. All those kinds of thoughts were actually springing around at that time. And because of that crisis, actually, many possibilities arise for young architects to design stuff and actually get it built. I was also lucky at that point because we just had one competition at the Werkplaats from Bouwkundewinkel with just the question to design a sustainable hiker's cabin, which is the top design there. And that's something I would give you to all of you. Any chance that you get on your road to becoming a designer, just take it. Because that chance, that one chance to just design something and get it built and go into a team to actually realize it from the first sketch till the end, actually created my entire career. So if I did not do that building, I would not have stand here, actually. As a designer, the first thing I learned in the last 3 years is that architecture is really slow. So it takes ages to not only, it takes like minutes to make one sketch, and that's the easy part, but making the design complete and mainly also getting everyone on board on the design is a process of many talks. And sometimes it's also tiresome as architect to go into those processes and become really enthusiastic about something that you've designed and something that you see that could be a solution, because any solution is already there. I mean, we all look at websites like ArcDaily and The Zine and all the things on the internet. We see the most awesome designs all over the world. But the time and effort, what is then the problem of getting a design actually built? Well, that's something I'm going to enlighten. What I'm really busy with as an architect, and that's maybe something for you all to take into account, is that of course there is technical difficulty. There is a way, okay, how are we going to build it? Is it going to be cost effective? Is it going to be affordable? But the starting point of a design should be the human perspective. So how, as we as people, or towards each other, with each other, how do we navigate through spaces? How are spaces connected to each other? And as a designer, you should really try to focus yourself on getting really good at communicating spatial design. In our office, we also use new technology like virtual reality, which, like these kind of stuff is what we do at our office. While watching the presentations in front of us, I was also thinking how privileged we are here to actually be busy with this kind of things in our office. So if you look at all the new technologies that are right around the corner here, this is Stripe S, are already like 10 companies busy with this kind of stuff. If you see how big the new technology, how fast the new technology is going on all fields of design, there's so much to use outside of architecture. I believe that the solution is not only architecture. The Heijmans one actually started with this email in 2013. So that's 3 years ago. There was one student, Rudy van Beurden. He was graduating at the Heijmans company itself. And he felt like, okay, I'm going to do something with my graduation. I'm not going to just take my project and make it and just send it in to the teacher, but I want to mean something. I really want to achieve something. So he went to the board of Heijmans and asked, what is the biggest, most impossible problem in this company? And there he actually got the feedback, well, we are still searching for a solution to a problem of all our empty building areas. And we have not yet come to an answer to it because there are too many people that have an opinion about it. Because a company like Heijmans also has a lot of different people having opinions about the way to go. So I just got this email, I mean, okay, I would like to have my graduation about a solution in the dwelling market that has problems. He really wanted to do stuff. And the nice thing is, his demand was that the dwelling needed to be gewild. Kind of a strange thing, like an architect to design something that is needed or appreciated or something. Maybe people should be able to be fans of the building. I don't know. So it actually started really simple. And the thing is that this design process started with just Rudy van Beurden, his co-teacher, Anneke Timmermans, and me, because he emailed me, and then we had this small meeting within Heijmans. There was no budget, nothing. And as a team, we decided to together make one design and then present it to the director board and just see what happens. What kind of locations should the dwelling be on? That was actually our first question. Because, well, if the brief was to make a housing concept for singles actually, that come out of the student time, and need to find their own home within the city, but they cannot really afford it because they also don't have a job or it's too expensive to live in the center of Amsterdam. While there are really a lot of empty sites in those city areas. So we had two things. On one side you had the singles, young people that are in the middle of their lives that also tend to have new families or new situations. So it has a temporary effect. So you're not going to live there for years. And on the other side is for most people their first dwelling, their first own house. And it is usually on a location that is really open. Really, sometimes even with the best of views. So as a designer, our main goal was not to put an incredible amount, a maximum amount of people on one side. It was purely about quality, identity, spaciousness. That was actually the main thing for our design process. And this is something we could do because there was no cost of the actual site under the construction. So because the land was already owned by Heijmans, we didn't need to take the cost of the ground into account of the design. When we first started our sketches, we were actually thinking, okay, well, if you're going to design a housing concept that should be placed anywhere, what kind of identity should it have then? Because identity is really local. It has something to do with culture, it has something to do with the place where it's built. And every building is somehow anchored to our society because it stands in a specific location. A building in Turkey has a different look than a building in the Netherlands. It has a different look than a building in London. Architecture has the luck, though, that because it already exists for thousands of years, it has really nice archetypes. And an archetype, we all know it, like the house shape or the temple shape or the pyramid, is actually throughout the ages has been loaded with all kinds of symbolic gestures, with emotion, with ideas. So if a child already draws a house in this shape, it loads it actually with all kinds of emotions that give the sense of place, a sense of home, a sense of being somewhere. So the central concept of the Heijmans 1 was actually just to take the iconic image of the house, or maybe the kennel house of the Netherlands, and make it asymmetrical, make it changeable, so you could connect them in different ways and create a landscape of roofs together in order to both make it like a product, so you could even multiply them by the hundreds, but still keep in identity and differentiation. So the central idea was to have the bottom half be the same every time, so the installations and the technical side and the main technical aspects would be the same, but the top could be changed from 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms, a loft, all kinds of different things. So in that way, from the first sketch, we already designed it as being a communal thing in which multiple houses together could form different shapes of housing. Second, and that's maybe the biggest problem that we had, is because we had single housing, we didn't really know how the community would be in those houses. I mean, if you have 20 or 30 or 40 houses there, only 30 or 40 people would live there. So next to that, we didn't really know what kind of scenery you would have. Some would be an industry site, some others would be maybe a beautiful canal. So in order to maximize the architecture's power, we made sure that we chose one side as the expensive side, where you put a lot of glass and view and architecture in it, to actually make it possible for everyone to enjoy a really nice view, and also being able to orient it always in a way that it has a really good quality, because not all areas that you're going to put your dwelling in are going to have good environmental qualities. So we had locations in which you had an industry park on one side and water on the other side, but because the houses were really like oriented into one direction, we were able to position them in a way that the view, the main view of the house, is still really has a high quality. These kinds of sketches were actually the first designs that followed after those intake sketches. And actually all the principles of the design are actually already there. I mean, the top view, the 2 halves in there, the kitchen, the living room, the measurements of maximum transportation. So anything that needs to move over the road can have a maximum size of 3.6 meters high, 3.5 meters wide. If you go over that, you need special transportation. And if you have special transportation, you need police cars and whatever, and it costs more money, because moving those houses is one of the more expensive parts of the entire thing. But as a designer, it's really difficult to explain the complexity of designing something like this, because if you're talking with your client about this and he says like, "Oh, couldn't we just move this wall here?" Doing that, moving this wall there, means that the staircase there does not fit anymore, the kitchen cannot be there anymore, the installations need to move right, and the VDA is no longer supported. So because the house is so small, everything is connected. So I think we designed about 10, 12 different layouts, because if you move one thing, you move everything. Now we are actually in a phase where the Heijmans buildings are actually getting located on positions, and it's really fun to see that you are actually also now receiving feedback, and that the product as itself is growing. So it was never the intention to design this house and then finish it and just see like, okay, it's on the portfolio website, you'll just see them throughout the Netherlands and it's done. The Heijmans one that we're building now is completely different than the Heijmans we prototyped in the first. So now we even have like a Tesla energy core inside the Heijmans one that loads up the energy in the cheap hours or from the solar panels, and then uses it in the house during the day. And in that way you can see that for a company, they approach this like a product. So the thing is that if you design architecture or a house like this as a product, it is something that becomes a living thing within the company that is also used for experimentation. So for instance, the Heijmans 1 has now been moved to all kinds of locations to the Netherlands, and now it's on the laboratory island of Amsterdam and retrofitted with all the newest tech, and there's some sort of a data student they put in there to live in it and do all the measurements of the house and get new information on it. So in that way, it also is a way for the company itself to keep reinventing ways of design. Then the design itself. It was mainly the question on how can you make a house that does not feel cramped? How can you make something maybe that even feels like a holiday home? That started actually with the front side, by giving it a clear front door, your own front door, a small pre-space where you could put your own plants and maybe on the facade put your own bird cage and stuff. So it opens up environment space to keep your own belongings inside your own house. When you move in, you come into a relative small space. So the entrance we deliberately made low to exaggerate the difference in the higher space in the back end. So by using the compressed space tactic, actually, of Frank Lloyd Wright, the feeling of the house becomes bigger because the entrance is small. When coming inside, the first thing that you see or that you get surrounded by are all your small personal things. So on the left side, you have drawers in the wall with pots and stuff and things that you like, maybe a picture, but also food. Food is really important. And then on the right side, you have the kitchen, and you have the cozy feeling, because everyone knows also with the student parties and stuff, you're always in the kitchen. The kitchen is a really good place to come in. And at the same time, for design, it's really interesting because all the installations are at one location. Then when you move in, you get into this really high space, like 5.5 meters high, maximum height that was possible. And the main reason for that was that to make a house that light, that even on a gray day, the typical rainy gray day of the Netherlands, it would have enough light in it without electric light on. And the thing is that if you look from the psychology side, if you sit in a dwelling and you cannot see the ceiling anymore, then it gives a totally different sense of spaciousness than when you have the ceiling coming down to you and you have a space that only is 3.1 meters on the inside. That's also the big difference, I think, between these kinds of concepts and, for instance, container homes that are relatively low. Never underestimate height in a design. That height, thereafter, is reused to create a second view on top. So, because it's designed for singles, there were actually a couple of things in mind. Can I have movie marathons in there with a couple of friends? Can I cook? Can I shower and stuff? Can I get to the shower without everyone seeing me through the big window in front? That kind of stuff. But also, could I maybe study somewhere? Can I leave a place a mess? Because first we had an open vide, but the thing is, then if you have your bed and everything like a complete mess and you have people visiting, then everyone would see it. So now it's closed. And on the top side, you again have the higher space connecting the top space, and there you could also study. So actually, this design is extremely luxurious for only one single person dwelling, and it's almost a house where you also could live with 2 people. That was actually also in the design brief. It's a single person house, but 2 people should be able to live there. So, so this is actually a section of the design. The biggest problem actually of the design is also its biggest quality. So because we created this vide kind of area, this high area, we immediately created this awesome problem of not having any support there. So the walls are actually only 8 centimeters thick and go 5.5 meters high. And they needed to be transported over the road. So every part, the bottom part and the top part, should be able to be lifted with the crane without being torn to pieces. So we went searching for a way to, as easily as possible, detail this entire design. And in that way, yeah, as an architect, I really like to just create or use materials that just are the material themselves, so not really from the painting and from the stucco and that kind of stuff. So we use laminated wooden glulam walls that are made in Switzerland and in the Austrian countries. Those walls are like 3.5 meters high, and they can span 18 meters in diagonal. They go to these automatic construction facilities in which they phrase, or they cut out all the windows, doors, and everything, and the entire wall is then used for the dwelling. So actually, from the right to the left, it's just one continuous wooden wall that is prefabricated. The nice thing about it is that it also serves the design as being really simple, because the section of the house is just like wood, 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 and wood. So the basic shell of the house is actually really simple. And then all the things added to it is steel construction to get to the connection points. I mean, the thing is that if you have, for instance, that side and this side, and the crane lifts it, then the problem is not really the strength of the wood wall in this direction, but more the wobbly thing that the wall would do if it's not supported. So the steel framing and extra trussing on the sides helps it to support that, deformation. And we use that truss on the front and the back side to also frame out the house and protect it against anything hitting it. So putting houses on top of each other or in their life, they may be able to hit something. So if you have a strong frame on the outside, it helps a lot. It also gives us the possibility to create a strong connection between the top and the bottom side by just bolting them together from the outside. We also chose to kind of, how do you say that in English? Vervagen. To kind of blend the two shapes together by placing the two middle facade panels after the connection of the houses. So you don't have like one cheesy cut to the entire house. It was kind of lame. Yeah, sometimes that's just the design. So this is actually the wooden product that we've used throughout the entire design. So everything that you see on the inside is just this. And this is one of the schematics that we use to see how the design performs during wind stresses. So that was a really nice thing, that we had these houses designed, and we designed them for like groups of 12 or 20. But still we had to calculate it as being a single house standing on the sea side, so the beach with storm. And it had to stand there. So you have this house that's only 3.5 meters wide, so that's just like as wide as this, I think, maybe a bit wider, and then 5.5 meters high, with a completely flat surface on one side, with the wind hitting it on the side, and a nice vide on the front with no support. So that was actually the biggest issue of the entire house. We had to fix the stability on that side, and steel helps. So that's also why the steel frame on the front side is around 25 centimeters. There were different options actually designed. Heijmans also moved back to another design during the process, but now we've again moved back to the original design. So by doing, we still learn. This is actually an X-ray vision of the design. It's really straightforward actually. I mean, we have a back frame and a front frame, and the wooden construction is suspended within the steel. So also during building, actually, they position the steel frames in the factory and then hang in the wooden construction afterward. It is interesting, though, to see that when you're detailing this, that in a CAD drawing, everything is on the millimeter, for the millimeters, so everything fits perfectly. But this, I mean, it's a wooden product, it shrinks, it moves a bit, so you have all those tolerances that need to be designed in every aspect of the design. I mean, if the steel frame is only like 1 centimeter not correct, then you need to actually move a solid timber wall 1 centimeter to fit the steel frame in, and that's not going to work. So that was something that I've learned also during the design process of this, even Heijmans also, because it was the first time that they made a wooden house. in this way, because in the Netherlands we are a concrete and masonry country. It was really interesting to see like all those construction people pushing a wooden wall to fit it in a steel frame and eventually get it done. And now we actually went to the position of actually producing the dwelling. So now we have like a production line, and then you see 30 of those ones going in production at one time. This is the section of the design. So on the back side, we have a double floor. So the installations that move in here are connected in this double floor, and then are connected to the top. The reason for this is that we didn't want to, because we have the kitchen on this side and the bathroom on the other side, it would have been really difficult to do that by the floor. We wanted to do it by the ceiling side. So actually we have a verlaagplafond, in the verlaagplafond in the dwelling, to connect the lowered ceiling. Yeah. So we have a lowered ceiling in the dwelling to connect the bathroom and the kitchen ventilation instead of doing it by the bottom. The connection with the foundation is just one connection point. So we're just connected to the local electricity and plumbing, and that's about it. We also have a version where it's like autarkic, but that's just really expensive. Yeah, it is. I mean, duurzaam is actually duur. Yeah, it is. I mean, the thing is that also what you see is that if you want really like sustainable design, sustainable does not always mean putting a lot of technology in things. So technology overall can help us to create awareness or create less usage of energy. Sometimes it also is good in reusing of energy, but the cost then of actually buying the things that you need to reuse energy, like batteries or solar panels, are in itself quite expensive. So it's a really complex thing actually. Well, back on the section, maybe an interesting detail. Putting those two houses on top of each other. Imagine you have like an 8-meter long wall that needs to fit perfectly on each other and not really give like a ugly scarring on the inside, you know, like, oh yeah, that's where the house connects. Like, so we try to cover it up by giving both the bottom and the bottom side and the top side a different color. So the bottom side of the dwelling is colored with whitewash, so it has a somewhat lighter wood, which also pushes back the yellowness of the wood a bit, so it gives you a bit of more color freedom when designing your own living room. But in the meanwhile, when you connect them on top of each other, the line that disconnects the two houses actually becomes an architectonic line between the color change of white and wood color. The detail itself is really simple again, actually. It's just a wooden kloosterverbinding. Yeah, that's, it's a, yeah, how do you call it in English, seriously? It's a joint, yeah. It's a wooden joint, yep. With further detail. You can see it here. And also really interesting maybe that because the top side of the wooden wall is the weakest part also of the wall, during the length of the entire facade it is strengthened by an extra wooden beam. And a really nice picture how it should be done when you do multiple houses. Also, the thing is that during our production time, we also learned, well, maybe it's better to not really put the houses straight next to each other, but make them like diagonal towards each other. So every house has their own small private space between the closed facade of the next dwelling. There was the image actually of the construction of the first prototype. So we had this one team of Heijmans that in a secret laboratory made the first Heijmans 1. It was really a secret laboratory because it was like one factory that was only open specially for this construction. And then, yeah, the moving part. Moving part is actually, it is quite tense when you see your house or the thing that you designed just float through the air on like a crane and a steel cable, and you think like, is it going to work? And the fun thing is that placing the bottom one is not a problem, you know. The bottom one is easy, but the top one needs to fit on the bottom one. So then you get to that point that they are like floating 5 centimeters above each other, and 4 people are all sides, also with cables, like moving. Okay. Oh, no, not down, and then again up. Because if you have one steel beam that misplaces, then it cuts into the wood. So it's really like this tense construction thing where you have walkie-talkies, but now we have a veteran team that has done this like tons of times. So. Here seems really chill. It was really, really cold here because this was again on like a nice Amsterdam empty area in the top with just no coverage. Oh, these beams are also quite interesting. They are added for the transportation side so that there is no deformation and that we don't have any broken glass windows. The house itself actually is quite light, so that's also the reason why we need to fix it with steel actually to the foundation, because else the wind will blow it over. Lighting is also a really nice thing actually to design. So for this design we also thought about how maybe could we make the design in that way that we strengthen the architectural framing of it, also on a distance, that you could say, hey, do you know where I live? Yeah, I live there. Now, that's possible with this. You could even change the color, so that's nice. The fun thing also is that with this single housing concept, you actually get a house that is on your ground with almost an endless garden. So you have like an endless garden in front of you with a terrace. These are some of the technical stuff that's in the dwelling. So there's water filtration in it. There's an e-shower in it. That does not mean that it has Wi-Fi or something, but it is really good in replenishing water. So after a while, the water that you used like a minute ago is reused, cleaned in a good manner, and then used again. There's big data, so all the houses that are going to be placed throughout the Netherlands are connected to each other, interconnected, and are going to store data on how they behave on different temperatures. So from that side, it's going to be a learning thing. Let's see, a microgrid, all electric. That means that when there are multiple houses together, they will work together to form one energy grid. So if one decides to like put on 20 computers in his house for a LAN party, then and the rest is not home, then they will use it together. And these kinds of nice infographics show all the nice things that are in the house. So this house is actually now visitable on that Amsterdam laboratory site on Java Island. This does not mean that every new Heijmans one has a rubberen globe playground, but it is there. So it's fun to see. What I do really like is that the Tesla thing, so the Tesla accu power pack that actually allows you to store your own energy. But yeah, here's a really nice picture of the interior. Let's see. On the top side, you also see the difference. So the line going from the top and the bottom side, the color difference between the two sides. In this, we've also taken in account the change of color of wood during the time. So over a year, the wood will be more yellow because of the sunlight. So if you take in account that change with the whitewashing, the difference will only become bigger. The only thing that we place afterwards is the steel frame of the staircase. That's kind of difficult to place there before because it penetrates both floors. We also integrated a nice TV furniture piece. There's always the question when you design something really small, should you design like fixed furniture or not? And sometimes if you combine fixed furniture with good storage space, it actually saves space. Storage space is one of the most missed things in small houses. So think about that in any design. Oh yeah, really nice pictures. This is the one now. So now you see also the color difference between the more yellow wood and the more white downside. From the electricity side, we first had all electric systems, mainly because the location usually is empty. So there's no gas or anything else. In the latest versions, we've switched to infrared heating. And those kind of panels are really interesting because they heat surfaces instead of the air. So you have a small panel that works on low energy. It sends infrared energy, and it really gives maybe like the heating lamp of the cafeteria thing kind of feeling, like instant warmth. I think that's about it. Yeah, this is the location of the Java island right at this moment.